Hey guys, settle here. Tonight we began a day in the life of a Victorian coal miner, but before we get started, make sure that you subscribed and comment me where are you watching from. You wake before the sun, though the air is already colder than any rational mind should tolerate. Your mattress is a bundle of straw and misfortune, thin enough to remind you of every poor decision that led to this life. Your bones crack like the mine timbers, stiff and foreboding. You breathe, and the frost greets your lungs with immediate hostility. Breakfast is a hunk of bread so hard it could double as a weapon. There is no butter. There is no tea. There is no hope. Only sustenance in its most minimal, Victorian form. You dress in rough fabric, your skin prickled by decades of cumulative irritation, and you step outside. The village is still cloaked in darkness, fog like wet cement pressing against your skin. The horses clip-clop lazily as they are led to carts that will eventually descend into the mine with you. You notice the children, already awake, their faces pale, their hands raw. 5, 6, 7 years old, carrying candles, baskets, and tools. Childhood is a rumor here. You inhale. Coal dust is already in your lungs, carried from the previous day by the wind. By the time you reach the mine, the sun is barely a promise. The entrance yawns before you like a mouth ready to consume the living. The timber supports creak in anticipation. The smell hits you first, a thick, choking mixture of earth, sweat, coal, and despair. You adjust the lamp on your cap, the metal cold and biting against your forehead. The first step into the shaft feels like a descent into another world, one that is alive, and it wants to remind you of your mortality. Your boots crunch against gravel, mud, and the occasional scattered bone of something that didn't quite make it. Inside, the mine is an ecosystem of fear, light, and shadows. Lanterns flicker, throwing tremulous halos on walls streaked with black dust. Water drips from the ceiling in irregular rhythms, some droplets landing on your skin with the cold shock of small betrayals. You hear the distant clatter of picks and shovels, the grinding of carts along rails, the occasional echoing cough of a fellow miner. Every sound is amplified by the narrow shafts, bouncing back like accusatory ghosts. Your task is simple, but also impossible: extract coal, survive, and do it before someone older, louder, or angrier notices your slowness. You grip your pickaxe. It feels heavier than any implement should, as if the mine itself weighs it down with bad intentions. You strike the wall, black dust rising like smoke from a funeral pyre. Your lungs register the particles immediately, your throat tightens, and still, you must continue. Every swing is measured in pain, precision, and endurance. The coal responds reluctantly, flaking in pieces, sometimes shooting sparks that feel like the universe mocking you. Around you, men move like shadows, hunched over, muscles straining, eyes hollow. You notice missing fingers, bandaged arms, scars, and expressions that suggest some part of their soul never survived past age 15. You whisper to yourself, "At least I have all of mine, for now." The mine doesn't care for hope. It only tests it. Hours pass. Time becomes meaningless. You strike, shovel, push carts, wipe sweat, cough, repeat. You lose track of how many swings, how many cartloads, how many breaths. The darkness presses closer, and your lamp is a tiny defiance. You notice the rats, enormous and unbothered by human suffering, weaving through debris. Occasionally, a bat flutters past, disoriented by your lamp, and you imagine it is judging your inefficiency. Lunch is a brief affair: bread, salted meat, a swig of water. Your hands are black, your fingernails indistinguishable beneath layers of grime. You eat mechanically, chewing faster than necessary, because lingering attracts attention, and attention in the mine is dangerous. Someone might trip. Someone might misplace a cart. Someone might notice the lack of productivity in your trembling arms. And so, you eat, you swallow, you return to work. Afternoon begins, but there is no afternoon, only a continuation of labor. The mine shifts and sighs, loose rocks threatening, the smell of coal heavier. A shaft creaks ominously above you. You imagine collapse, disaster, catastrophe. You keep swinging. You keep shoveling. You keep existing. Sweat mixes with coal dust, forming a black paste that cakes your face, your hands, your clothes. Breathing is laborious, deliberate. Occasionally, you glance around, men pause for brief moments, wiping tears, coughing, muttering to themselves. Some pray. Some curse. Some stare at the walls as if they contain secrets or judgments. You catch glimpses of humanity here and there, in small smiles, nods, the brief camaraderie born from shared suffering. Shadows lengthen. You hear distant cracks, small shifts in the mine. Each sound a question, will I survive this hour? You answer with labor. You answer with endurance. You answer with grim humor, imagining the mine itself taking notes, mocking you, challenging your persistence. As night descends above ground, you remain underground, unaware of sunlight, yet acutely aware of time's passage through the fatigue in your muscles and the ache in your back. Every movement is slow but deliberate, a testament to endurance, fear, and darkly heroic absurdity. The mind does not allow distraction. The mind drifts. You imagine your home, your bed, a warm meal, but they are illusions, temporary, unreliable. You continue. You endure. You survive. Every step upward is a small victory, an invisible medal of survival. Above you, faint light begins to bleed through the mine entrance, a pale and indifferent sun. You pause for a fraction of a second to inhale deeply, lungs struggling to accommodate clean air that feels almost alien. The smell of soot, coal dust, sweat, and despair begins to dissipate, replaced by frost, wet mud, and the distant aroma of wood smoke from village chimneys. You realize how long it has been since your body tasted anything resembling fresh air, and yet, in its absence underground, you had adapted to a world without it. Emerging from the mine is like waking from a long, perilous dream. Light stabs your eyes, warmth presses against your skin, and birds are singing as though mocking your months of darkness. You blink repeatedly, reorienting yourself to the world of color, of open space, of reality uncompressed. You feel heavier now, your clothes soaked, caked with coal dust, smell like survival, smell like labor, smell like history itself. Villagers pass by, some with carts, some carrying water, some hurrying past, heads down, just like you, bound to their own schedules, their own suffering. You pause at the mine entrance, hands on knees, chest heaving, sweat cooling and sticking to blackened skin. Your muscles scream with every fiber of memory, demanding recognition for hours of relentless work. Every joint aches, every fingertip complains, and your back insists on chronic documentation of the day's labors. You stretch slowly, painfully, noticing how the world above the mine exists without urgency, as though unaware of the ordeal that has been happening beneath its feet. You feel alien to it now, yet intimately connected, the village, the mine, the workers, the rhythm of this dark ecosystem that never stops, never sleeps, and never excuses human frailty. Daylight fades into the long gray of the Victorian sky, though in truth it is barely light at all. You walk back to the housing area, past rows of small cottages crowded tightly together, smoke curling from every chimney. Children play, strangely unharmed by the same air you fought to escape moments ago, their laughter brittle and fragile. You notice the women returning from communal work, their faces lined with exhaustion, their hands raw like yours. You recognize a solidarity in their movement, a rhythm of labor and survival shared across generations. You reach your small room, a modest cube with straw mattress, rough wooden walls, and the faint scent of dampness that will cling to you for days. You remove boots, shake off coal dust that stubbornly clings to every seam, and sit on the edge of your bed. Your hands are blackened, your clothes saturated, your lungs still tight with the remnants of the mine's breath. You breathe deliberately, slowly, feeling the fatigue settle like sediment, a weight that is both punishment and proof of persistence. Night falls fully. You light a small candle. Its flame flickers in the dim room, revealing the contours of walls lined with faded posters, tattered clothing, and signs of human existence. You feel the quiet that exists above ground, a fragile, tentative quiet compared to the mind's deafening orchestration. Your body trembles slightly from exertion. You wash quickly, the water tepid, more cleansing in intent than in effect. You notice every ache, every nick, every sting. You acknowledge them, accept them, and let them settle into the memory of the day. Your stomach growls. You eat the evening meal, bread, perhaps some salted meat if fortune permits. You chew deliberately, slowly, aware that each bite represents both sustenance and reprieve. The village exists in parallel rhythms, some preparing for the next day, some children studying, some elders recounting stories of past labor, past mines, past survival. You sit among them, observing, reflecting, tasting both exhaustion and a strange, quiet satisfaction at having survived another day in a system designed to grind men down. You lie down on the straw mattress, the candle flickering low. Darkness envelopes you. You feel every muscle relax, every fiber acknowledge the end of relentless activity. Sleep is not immediate. Your body is too tired, your mind too alert, trained by years underground to remain wary, to anticipate danger. But gradually, heaviness overtakes vigilance. Your breath deepens. Your heartbeat slows. You enter sleep that is both recovery and rehearsal, a preparation for tomorrow's descent, tomorrow's rhythm of labor, exhaustion, survival, and dark humor. And as you drift fully into unconsciousness, your mind hovers between gratitude and dread. Grateful for breath, warmth, and fleeting light. Dreadful of the next day, the next shift, the machinery waiting, the mind demanding. Yet in this balance lies existence, endurance, and the strange, unbroken rhythm of Victorian coal miner life, an existence measured not in joy or comfort, but in survival, absurdity, and the quiet poetry of labor against impossible odds. The night deepens. The candle flickers against the walls, casting shadows that creep like silent spectators. Outside, the wind carries the muted cries of the town, cows lowing in their pens, a dog barking at a stranger that may or may not exist, the faint rumble of distant machinery that never truly sleeps. You lie on the straw mattress, body sore, lungs still recovering, mind replaying the day in meticulous, exhausting detail. Fingers, joints, every tendon screams softly, reminding you that your body remembers the machine, the belt, the gears, the whir of steam, the smell of coal, the weight of a life defined by work and endurance. You roll slightly, adjusting to the uneven mattress. Every motion is deliberate. Your hands brush over the rough surface, feeling the straw poke and scratch. You inhale deeply, tasting the smoke, the faint scent of yesterday's bread, the remnants of dust that cling stubbornly to your skin. Each breath is a meditation, a catalogue of sensation, a tether to the present, a proof that you still exist outside the machinery's roar. Outside your window, the fog rolls over the village like an invisible river, thick and cold, bringing with it the scent of damp earth and distant fires. You imagine the mines, the factories, the chimneys puffing black smoke endlessly into the indifferent sky. Somewhere, children are sleeping on straw just like you did as a child. Somewhere, someone coughs violently in the night, lungs betraying them. Somewhere, the gears keep spinning. And yet, here you are, in quiet observation, allowed a moment of solitude, a moment of reflection. You let your mind wander back to the morning, the climb to the mine, the rat darting across the wooden beams, the tension in every step. You remember the feeling of the lamp in your hand, its feeble glow carving small islands of light in the suffocating darkness. The smell of coal dust rising from the seams, clinging to hair and clothes, refusing to be ignored. The endless rhythm of pick against rock, belt against pulley, hand against unforgiving metal. You can feel it again, every vibration, every tremor in the floor transmitted through your worn shoes and aching back. Now the night is soft. Quiet, but not empty. You hear your own breathing, the subtle groan of timber in the walls, the occasional scuffle of rats in the corner. Even the silence feels alive, filled with history and expectation. You let your mind trace the day's events, not with panic or fear, but with careful acknowledgement, the hazards faced, the small victories claimed, the tiny survival decisions that passed unnoticed by everyone else. You survived another day. That is enough. Outside, the moon traces pale silver paths across the village roofs, illuminating the blackened chimneys, the puddles of rain and soot, the narrow streets where shadows stretch long. You imagine walking those streets tomorrow, boots soaked, lungs tightening, heart racing, not in fear, exactly, but in anticipation of another day measured in endurance, stamina, and resilience. You shift on the mattress. Fingers brush against the cold floor. Your stomach growls faintly, a reminder that even after long hours of work, hunger persists. You chew slowly, recalling the taste of bread, the occasional salted meat, the coffee or tea that belonged to someone wealthier. The flavor is faint but grounding, a link between past and present, between labor and sustenance. Your thoughts drift to the coworkers you observed today, each a human study in adaptation. The man missing fingers, the child who ran faster than your exhausted mind could keep pace, the foreman whose presence was a study in omnipresent authority and silent intimidation. They were all part of the same machinery you inhabited, moving in rhythms dictated by steam, gears, and relentless expectation. You are aware now that survival is as much about observation as it is about physical endurance. The body responds, but the mind must also learn, adjust, and anticipate. Outside, the air shifts subtly. Night deepens. The wind carries whispers of distant animals, dogs, perhaps foxes, birds settling into trees for sleep. Somewhere a bell tolls, faint, carrying across the empty streets. Time feels unmoored, yet structured. You are conscious of the rhythm of hours, minutes, breaths, heartbeats, and stillness. The night is long, and it invites reflection. You let your eyes close, but your mind remains attentive. Each sensation is catalogued, the straw pressing against your back, the candle flames flicker, the faint drafts through the wooden walls, the distant sounds of life continuing while you rest. Every ache and pain becomes part of a story, a narrative of endurance, a meditation on human resilience. Sleep begins to pull you gently. The memories of coal dust, machinery, foremen, and rats fade into the edges of your mind. You drift, aware that tomorrow will demand the same attention, the same labor, the same courage. But tonight, you are allowed pause. The body relaxes, the lungs ease, the heart slows, and you are suspended between the exhaustion of yesterday and the anticipation of tomorrow. In the darkness, you visualize the village under moonlight. Streets empty, chimneys breathing smoke into the cold night. Windows glow faintly. Somewhere, someone dreams of leaving, someone dreams of surviving, someone dreams of warmth. You lie among these stories, part of the rhythm of life that moves through every Victorian worker, every laborer, every soul bound to the machinery of necessity. And in this quiet, reflective state, you understand, survival is measured not only in continued breath, but in the acknowledgement of every sensation, every challenge, every triumph, no matter how small, no matter how cruelly the day demands it. Each day lived, each breath drawn, each finger kept intact is a quiet victory against relentless odds. You wake again before dawn. The air is colder than you imagined possible. The straw mattress presses into your spine in ways that feel intentional, as though the world itself wishes to remind you that comfort is a privilege of someone else. Outside, the village is silent but alive, faint footsteps, the occasional cough, a dog scratching at the door of a neighbor long gone. You pull your thin blanket tighter, shivering, tasting the smoke of last night's fire lingering in your nostrils. The first light barely exists, just a gray wash over soot-darkened rooftops. Chimneys still billow black clouds as if the night forgot to end. Somewhere, a bell tolls faintly, though not for you, it is indifferent to your survival. You sit up slowly, feeling every muscle objecting to the decision. You are aware of every ache, every tendon, every joint stiff from yesterday's labor. Outside your window, the fog clings to the streets. It tastes of wet brick, coal dust, and misfortune. You imagine the journey ahead, the mud, the rats, the people scurrying like you do, all participating in this shared suffering that is life in the industrial age. Breakfast is minimal. Bread, hard as stone, a smear of fat if you are lucky. Coffee or tea is a rumor whispered in the upper floors of the town. You eat slowly, chewing deliberately, because haste could injure more than your teeth, it could injure your will. You dress. Every stitch of clothing resists you. Every button is a negotiation with the garment. The fabric scratches, the seams cut, and you feel each thread whisper, you belong to this era now. Resistance is futile. You leave the house, boots wet and shoes half-soaked, stepping into streets slick with grime, puddles reflecting the gray sky like mirrors to despair. The air is thick with the smell of coal, soot, and damp wood. Every inhalation reminds you of yesterday, of the factory, of the relentless machine. The path to work is a gauntlet. Rats large enough to consider forming unions scurry along, indifferent to your existence. Children pass by, their small faces solemn, their eyes already accustomed to horror and fatigue. You wonder what childhood could be in this era. Then you remember, it is a rumor. At 5, you learn survival. At 7, endurance. At 12, you are a cog in the relentless industrial machine. The factory looms ahead like a dark cathedral of despair. Its brick walls rise against the gray sky, chimneys breathing smoke like the lungs of giants. You enter. The roar greets you as it always does, a deafening, all-consuming wave of sound that presses into your skull and rattles your ribs. You feel the heat before you see it, a wave of metallic warmth laced with oil, soot, and the faint tang of iron. Machines move with terrifying independence. Belts spin, gears grind, pistons hiss, and the occasional scream echoes as if the factory itself is alive, mocking you. You are small. You are fragile. Yet, somehow, you are expected to move faster, work harder, survive longer than your instincts suggest possible. Every motion requires calculation, anticipation, and fear. A single misstep could cost a finger, a hand, or worse. Your co-workers are ghosts and survivors. Some missing digits, some hunched over with exhaustion, some silent, some muttering under their breath as if reciting prayers to machinery gods. They move in rhythms that are learned, almost ritualistic, choreographed by necessity, fear, and habit. You study them, memorizing each motion, each pattern. Survival depends not only on skill, but on observation, anticipation, and knowing when to freeze. Time dilates. Hours stretch into a continuum of noise, heat, and motion. You lose track of what part of the day it is. You feel your body adapting painfully. Lungs rasp, heart pounds, muscles burn, joints ache, but you continue. You exist inside a mechanical symphony conducted by steam and coal, your every movement and note in a melody of endurance and despair. Midday arrives, though it is impossible to tell. You sit for a brief moment, a reprieve of seconds between cycles. Bread, a thin slice, your only nourishment, becomes a meditation. You chew slowly, noting every texture, every bite, every sensation, because it is the only moment fully yours. Around you, the factory moves in relentless rhythm. Belts spin, gears grind, steam hisses. The noise is unyielding. You breathe carefully. Every inhalation is a decision. Dust rises like tiny specters, swirling in the pale light filtering through grimy windows. You taste it, feel it settle in your lungs, and remind yourself that survival is endurance, not comfort. And yet, in this shared suffering, there is a strange companionship. Your fellow workers, children, men, and women alike, all participate in this grim ballet. You are not alone, though it does not feel comforting. It is merely acknowledgement. Humanity persists, even here. Evening approaches. Shadows lengthen, mixing with the ever-present haze. The foreman patrols, eyes like knives, voice like thunder, demanding compliance, attention, perfection, speed. You comply. You survive. You endure. Your body is weary, your mind frayed, but you continue. The machines, indifferent to your suffering, continue their relentless task. You are their companion, their servant, their witness. Night falls. The factory empties gradually, leaving behind echoes of heat, motion, and fatigue. You walk home slowly, boots soaked, lungs strained, body aching with every step. The village is quiet, fog curling along streets, chimneys breathing gently. You arrive home, collapse onto your straw mattress, the day's horrors etched in every joint, every muscle, every sense. And yet, in the quiet, there is reflection. You survived. You endured. You participated in a rhythm older than yourself. You inhaled, you exhaled, you moved, you adapted. Your body remembers, your mind remembers, your soul remembers. And tomorrow, it begins again. Night deepens, thick and heavy outside your window. The fog curls around rooftops like slow-moving ghosts, carrying the faint smell of coal, damp wood, and distant labor. You lie on the straw mattress, every joint protesting, every muscle whispering warnings in a language only your body fully understands. The day's work lingers on your skin, a layer of soot and sweat, as permanent as memory. You breathe in slowly, deliberately, tasting the bitter tang of industry in the air. Outside, the village is mostly silent, yet alive in subtle ways. A distant dog barks, echoing across narrow streets. A child coughs from the other side of the alley, a reminder that even in rest, life persists. Smoke from chimneys rises lazily, curling toward the dim stars, carrying with it the residue of another day endured. You reflect on the relentless machinery, the ceaseless roar of iron and steam. The factories rest now, but tomorrow they will awaken again with the same violent enthusiasm. Their rhythm is unyielding, indifferent to your suffering or your presence. And yet, within that rhythm, you have found a fragile kind of harmony. You adapted. You survived. You observed, you moved, you endured. The room is cold, unheated, unwelcoming, yet it is yours, if only briefly. You lie on your back, hands folded over your chest, listening to the faint creaks and groans of the building. Each sound tells a story, the settling of timber, the sigh of the walls under the weight of history, the quiet insistence that life continues, even when it is hard, even when it is absurd. You close your eyes, imagining the factories, the streets, the river black with coal and waste. You remember the faces of your co-workers, their expressions carved by hardship, resilience, and grim acceptance. You remember the foreman's scowl, the machine's indifferent menace, the smell of grease and fire. You let these images settle, letting the chaos of the day slowly dissolve into memory. Your mind wanders to simpler moments. Perhaps a brief laugh shared over a spilled bucket of water, a coworker's sly joke whispered through the roar of machinery, the fleeting taste of slightly warmer bread at midday. These small victories, these fleeting moments of human connection, anchor you amidst the relentless grind. You feel the weight of your body pressing into the straw mattress, heavy yet alive. Every ache, every twinge, every pulse of exhaustion is proof that you exist in this time, that you have endured another day in a world designed to challenge your very will. You let your thoughts drift with the rhythm of night, inhale, exhale, listen, feel, acknowledge. Outside, the village settles. Smoke rises, fog thickens, distant footsteps fade. The river gurgles quietly, no longer boiling with industrial runoff, but still dark, still a reminder of the environment shaped by human hands. You imagine the river tomorrow, the mud, the grime, the children racing past, the ever-present reminder that life never pauses for comfort. Sleep begins to approach, but it is not immediate, not perfect. You lie awake briefly, eyes tracing the shadows cast by the moonlight through the grime-smeared windows. You remember the rhythm of the factory, the belching of steam, the hiss of pistons, the metallic chorus. You realize that even in absence, the sound lingers in your memory, shaping your awareness. It becomes part of you, as inseparable as the soot on your skin. As your mind quiets, you reflect on the day as a whole, the survival, the endurance, the minor victories, the laughter and horror intertwined. You remember that each moment, each second of labor, each breath taken in the dust-heavy air, is part of a rhythm larger than yourself. Life in the Victorian industrial era is not gentle, not forgiving, but it is alive. And so are you. The night grows deeper, more silent. Your thoughts become slower, measured, deliberate. You notice the steady beat of your own heart, the inhale and exhale of your lungs, the warmth slowly returning to your extremities. The world outside continues in its fog-laden, soot-covered way, indifferent yet persistent. You, too, persist. You drift further, letting the memory of the day dissolve into a gentle haze. The factory is quiet, the village is muted, and your body finally begins to relax. Every ache remains, every memory persists, but a calm settles over you. You survived. You endured. You are present, and your awareness of this existence is enough. And in that stillness, you hold the understanding of this life, hardship and endurance, noise and silence, community and isolation, absurdity and survival, all woven together into the rhythm of a Victorian day. You are part of this world, a witness and participant, and though the day was harsh, the night offers perspective, reflection, and fragile peace. Dawn approaches, but it is not gentle. The sky remains a heavy gray, reluctant to let light in. You stir on the straw mattress, your body protesting with every fiber, every joint, every breath. The memory of yesterday's machines, their roar and relentless demand, lingers in your mind like a shadow you cannot shake. You rise slowly, each movement deliberate, acknowledging the ache, the stiffness, the exhaustion. Outside, the village yawns awake. Smoke from chimneys curls upward, black and thick, meeting the low clouds like old friends exchanging complaints. Children shuffle past the narrow streets again, their small faces pale and grim, carrying tools far heavier than their limbs were designed for. They nod at you, silent greetings, small acts of solidarity amidst the chaos of Victorian life. The factory looms ahead, a brick mountain indifferent to human suffering. Its chimneys belch black smoke like dragons chained in iron prisons. The air is thick, heavy, and bitter. Every breath is a negotiation. Every step toward the entrance is a challenge to your will. Yet, you continue. Survival demands it. Habit demands it. Fear demands it. Inside, the machinery awakens before you. Steam hisses, belts whir, gears grind with aggressive purpose. The foreman's scowl is already in place, his eyes scanning, calculating, judging. The machines roar as if remembering yesterday's fear, prepared to exact new tolls today. You move carefully, aware that one wrong step, one slip of attention, could erase hours, minutes, or worse, fingers, pride, or hope. Your co-workers, familiar in their misery, nod silently at each other. Together, you form a rhythm, a darkly choreographed dance of survival. Fingers hover above levers, eyes track pistons, bodies sway to the industrial orchestra. You learn to anticipate the machine's whims, reading the subtle vibrations in the floor, the faint hiss of steam, the shudder of belts. Experience becomes intuition. Fear becomes focus. Exhaustion becomes your ally. Mid-morning brings no relief. The air is thick, hotter, heavier. Sweat mingles with soot to form a layer on your skin that will not wash away until nightfall. Breathing becomes strategic, a careful timing between hisses, clanks, and groans of machinery. You notice patterns forming, a piston hisses, a belt shudders, a gear shudders slightly off rhythm. You learn to move in these pauses, small victories carved from chaos. Lunchtime is brief, a grim affair. You sit with your co-workers on benches that have seen better centuries, passing morsels of bread and whatever sustenance was allotted. Conversation is sparse, muffled by fatigue and noise, yet companionship exists even in silence. Eyes meet, a shared understanding passing between you. You are surviving. Together, the afternoon stretches endlessly. The machine's roar does not abate. Your muscles ache. Your lungs protest. Your mind drifts in brief flashes of memory, home, childhood, sunlight, quiet moments of laughter. Each memory is a fleeting comfort, a small shield against the relentless industrial storm. By evening, the factory begins its slow exhalation. The hiss of steam diminishes. Belts slow. Pistons pause. The foreman's scowl remains, unyielding, but the day's end approaches. You stumble out into the evening air, lungs full of the blackened breath of coal and metal. The village looks different at night, quieter, though no less grim. Smoke curls lazily. Children are few, their day ended, their small victories survived. Back in your room, you collapse onto the straw mattress. The aches of the body are constant companions, but so is relief. Relief that another day is behind you, survived, endured. You close your eyes, letting the sensory weight of the day fall away slowly. The darkness is a balm, a temporary reprieve from the relentless demands of labor. Outside, the village settles into a rhythm of night. Dogs bark in the distance, chimneys smolder quietly, the river flows dark and indifferent. Your mind wanders gently, recalling the day's minutiae, the hiss of steam, the metallic clangs, the fleeting humor shared with co-workers, the small triumphs over machinery and fatigue. You reflect, aware that survival itself is a series of victories, small but essential. Sleep approaches slowly, not immediate, not perfect. You lie awake for a time, acknowledging the day in full, the struggle, the endurance, the moments of human connection, and the relentless machinery. You breathe deliberately, feel your body fully, and let the rhythm of existence, harsh yet persistent, guide you into rest that as night deepens. You drift into dreams faintly colored by industrial soot, by the faces of co-workers, by the smell of coal and bread and iron. Yet even in dreams, there is continuity. The factory remains, the village persists, and you persist with it. Life is harsh. Life is relentless. But life continues, and you, in your fragile, exhausted form, continue too. And tomorrow, you will rise again. The bell will ring. The smoke will curl. The machines will roar. The foreman will scowl. And you will endure, witness, survive. Because this is Victorian factory life, unyielding, absurd, relentless, and lived fully with every breath, every muscle, every ounce of attention. The next morning begins almost before you've truly slept. Dawn is a reluctant guest, gray and muted, creeping through the cracks of your small window. You stir, your body a chorus of aches, each joint and muscle announcing yesterday's labor like an unpaid chorus of nagging voices. Yet you rise, because in Victorian life, rising is not optional, it is mandatory, relentless, unavoidable. Outside, the streets are already humming with movement. Children scurry past, tools in hand, eyes focused and wary, their small bodies somehow carrying burdens far beyond imagination. The smell of coal and smoke mingles with dampness from last night's drizzle, forming the same bitter cloud that greeted you yesterday. It clings to hair, clothing, and lungs. There is no escaping it. You breathe it anyway, because survival does not ask for consent. The factory looms ahead, unchanged yet always threatening. Its brick walls seem taller, its chimneys darker, as if yesterday's labor gave it the power to judge more sharply today. The bell rings, metallic and accusing, vibrating through the streets, through your chest, through the very marrow of your bones. You hurry, as all workers do, not out of joy, but out of fear. The foreman waits, his scowl sharpened overnight, a permanent fixture on the factory floor. Inside, the air is a dense soup once more. Steam hisses, belts whirl, gears grind, pistons pound. The factory awakens in a symphony of chaos that refuses to relent. Every machine seems more alive than yesterday, more intent on demanding attention, more determined to remind you of your mortality. You move carefully, anticipating their whims, balancing fear with function, learning again what your body must do to survive this mechanical storm. By mid-morning, you notice the patterns that yesterday were invisible. The rhythmic hiss of the steam valve. The subtle sway of the largest belt. The faint shudder of a press moments before it slams into action. Experience is survival, and every small victory, avoiding a pinch, dodging a hot spray, keeping a finger, is celebrated silently, without fanfare. Your co-workers nod at each other in tiny gestures of understanding, shared endurance, and silent camaraderie forged in industrial fire. Your lunch is brief, cold, and flavorless. The bread is yesterday's bread, hardened to near weaponry, smeared with the smallest smear of margarine or jam someone considered a luxury. Conversation is minimal. The roar of the machinery continues in your ears as a low constant, a soundtrack of oppression and absurdity. You chew mechanically, swallow deliberately, and prepare yourself for the afternoon stretch of labor, already knowing that it will test every ounce of attention and stamina. Afternoon drags, stretching minutes into eternity. You feel your body attempting small rebellions, eyes blink too slowly, muscles tremble, joints protest. But you keep moving, a unit in the factory's relentless dance. Occasionally, a coworker mutters an observation or warning, their voice barely audible above the roar, but vital nonetheless. You begin to perceive subtle humor in the day, the absurdity of surviving machinery designed to crush rather than serve, the small jokes whispered to survive sanity. By evening, the factory begins its slow exhalation once again. Steam dies down, belts grind more slowly, the pistons release their pressure with an almost human sigh. You step outside, lungs gasping for air that is at least partially breathable. The streets are quieter than morning, yet the same oppressive haze lingers, sticking to hair, clothing, skin, and spirit. Night comes, reluctant and dense. You retreat to your straw mattress, body sore, lungs blackened, mind buzzing with the sensory overload of the day. Your eyelids close, yet sleep is uneasy. The memories of whirring belts, hissing steam, missing fingers, and foreman scowls swirl together, a theater of endurance and absurdity that cannot be switched off. Even in dreams, the factory persists, machines and humans locked in endless rhythm. Yet there is something almost meditative in the repetition, the predictability, the pattern, the shared struggle. The foreman may scowl, the children may scurry, the machines may roar, but each cycle is a cycle known, anticipated, endured. And as sleep deepens, you feel the strange comfort of routine, the dark humor in absurdity, the shared understanding among workers, the resilience built in hours of relentless labor. This is Victorian factory life, cruel, exhausting, relentless, absurd, yet strangely ordered, strangely human in its shared suffering, strangely alive in every echo of steam and clank. You breathe deeply, slowly, feeling each ache, each pulse, each victory of survival. Tomorrow, the bell will ring again. Machines will roar. The foreman will judge. You will endure again. Because survival, endurance, shared suffering, and absurd humor are the true currencies of this world. The next morning arrives with the same stubborn insistence as every day in Victorian life. You wake to a thin shaft of grey light through your window, the room still cold, the straw mattress still lumpy and judgmental. Your back protests immediately, joints announcing yesterday's labors like a town crier delivering bad news. You rise, body trembling, lungs preparing to inhale the same toxic cocktail that is now synonymous with existence. Outside, the streets are already active. Children clutch tools in tiny, calloused hands. Their faces are solemn, focused, a grim reflection of survival. The air is a blend of coal, damp, and a faint hint of desperation. Every inhale fills your lungs with texture, with grit, with the reality of industrial progress. You shiver, not just from cold, but from knowing what awaits inside the factory walls. The factory looms ahead, black and imposing, smoke curling into the sky like invisible fingers reminding you of yesterday's lessons. The bell rings, metallic, accusing, impossible to ignore. You quicken your step, shoes squelching in the mud, lungs struggling, fingers stiff from the cold. The foreman's shadow is already visible near the entrance, moving with the slow menace of a predator who has forgotten mercy. Inside, the machinery greets you with a deafening roar. Steam hisses like angry snakes. Belts spin with lethal intent. Pistons pound like impatient hearts. The air is hot, thick, almost physical, clinging to your skin and lungs. You step carefully, aware of every loose cog, every oily patch, every lurking danger. Even the floor seems conspiring, uneven and slippery, carrying the residue of generations of labor and misfortune. Your coworkers move like ghosts, limbs and bodies trained into the rhythm of survival. Each motion is precise, mechanical, terrifying in its efficiency. A man missing several fingers passes, giving a nod that says, "You will survive if you are careful, but do not expect kindness." You nod back, knowing words are futile, observation essential. Every sound, every movement, every vibration matters. Mid-morning stretches endlessly. Your lungs burn, your throat is dry, your muscles tremble. The machines continue their relentless assault, indifferent to your presence, to your fears, to your existence. And yet, in the chaos, a strange rhythm emerges. You begin to anticipate the hiss, the clank, the groan of metal on metal. Experience becomes survival, survival becomes art. You catch subtle gestures from coworkers, a tilt of the head, a shift in stance, that communicate vital information, danger, opportunity, caution. Lunch arrives like a merciful interruption, but relief is fleeting. Bread, hard as stone, is supplemented by water that tastes faintly of metal and regret. Conversation is minimal, the noise is omnipresent. You chew mechanically, swallow deliberately, and prepare for the afternoon stretch of labor, knowing it will demand every ounce of focus and energy. The afternoon is a trial of endurance. Heat builds, sweat mixes with soot, grime, and effort, creating a film over your skin. You dodge spinning belts, avoid hissing pipes, and feed raw materials into machines whose names you only know by whispered legend: the nibbler, the hand collector, the relentless crusher. Every motion is a negotiation with death and absurdity. By late afternoon, fatigue settles in, a heavy blanket you cannot remove. Your mind drifts in brief moments, imagining what life outside the factory might look like: sunlight on a field, clean air, the absence of grinding metal. But reality is immediate, oppressive, and inescapable. Each machine continues its symphony of violence, each coworker continues their grim ballet of endurance, and the foreman's glare remains a constant, judging presence. Evening descends reluctantly, and the factory finally begins its slow exhale. Steam dissipates, belts lose momentum, and pistons ease their pounding. You step outside, lungs grasping for breathable air, clothes and hair coated in grime and the faint scent of fear. The streets are quieter, but the air is still heavy, still unwelcoming. You walk home through the gray haze, body aching, mind buzzing, spirit frayed but unbroken. Night is your only solace, though sleep is uneasy. Your mattress offers no comfort, your dreams are haunted by whirring belts and hissing steam, yet in them, you find traces of humor and resilience. You remember the small victories of the day, a near miss, a nod from a coworker, surviving another hour. These tiny triumphs are everything, sustaining you for the next cycle. And so, Victorian life continues: relentless work, oppressive air, dangerous machines, unyielding authority, shared suffering, small victories, and absurd humor. Each day repeats, each day demands endurance, and each day builds resilience in ways modern comfort can scarcely imagine. You breathe deeply, noticing every ache, every pulse, every small sign of survival. Tomorrow, the bell will ring again. Machines will roar. The foreman will judge. You will endure. Because endurance, absurdity, shared struggle, and the rhythm of relentless labor are the true currencies of Victorian existence, you wake again before sunrise, the room cold as a crypt. Your muscles are still screaming from yesterday, and your joints greet you with protests that sound suspiciously like curses in an old, forgotten language. The straw mattress offers no forgiveness, only judgment and a faint dust aroma that has become a part of you. You rise, body stiff, lungs weary, knowing the day ahead will demand every ounce of attention, courage, and patience you can muster. Outside, the streets are already alive with motion. Children run past with tiny tools in hands that should barely know how to hold pencils. Their faces are solemn, almost militaristic, a reflection of the industrial era's version of innocence. The fog hangs heavy, a gray veil that tastes like coal, smoke, and regret. You inhale deeply, lungs filing with the textured air, each particle a reminder that survival is the first victory of the day. The factory bell rings again. Its sound is a metallic accusation, a reminder that time in Victorian England is not a friend. You hurry, shoes squelching in the mud, body stiff, mind calculating every step to avoid slipping, falling, or drawing the foreman's wrath. Around you, rats skitter across the streets, large, unbothered, perhaps pitying you. You wonder, fleetingly, if they have union representation. As you enter the factory, the wall of heat, noise, and grime greets you like a relentless old friend. The machines roar, hiss, grind, and we're in chaotic symphony. Steam cuts across the room in sharp, scalding arcs, and the smell of soot and oil is overpowering. The floor is slick with a mixture of grime, grease, and centuries of industrial history. Each step is strategic, each movement a negotiation with the unknown. Your coworkers move with terrifying precision, limbs coordinated like a deadly ballet. Every action has been rehearsed over years of survival, feeding raw materials, adjusting gears, monitoring pistons, avoiding hazards that have claimed more than one unsuspecting hand. The machines are indifferent. They do not recognize fear, only motion. They punish hesitation and reward speed. The foreman appears, looming like a shadow of disappointment. He does not speak, he simply watches, eyes sharp, gaze heavy. Workers straighten instinctively, aware that judgment is not verbal, it is an aura, palpable, inescapable. You know you are being measured, every twitch and hesitation accounted for. Mid-morning stretches endlessly. Your lungs burn with each breath, thick with soot and steam. Your hands are coated in grime, your clothes sticky, the heat oppressive. Sweat mixes with dust, forming a film over your skin that will not wash away until the end of the week. The machines continue their symphony, indifferent to human suffering, operating on a philosophy of motion at any cost. Lunch arrives like a fleeting mercy. The bread is hard, the water metallic. You chew mechanically, swallowing out of necessity rather than pleasure. Conversation is minimal, noise renders words useless. You observe co-workers, noting subtle gestures, tiny adaptations, and the unspoken language of survival. Every nod, every glance, every shift of posture carries vital information. The afternoon is a trial of endurance. Steam hisses like serpents, belts spin with lethal intent, and pistons strike with relentless rhythm. You feed materials into machines whose names inspire dread, the nibbler, the relentless crusher, the hand collector. Every motion is a calculated gamble, every breath a decision. Pain, fear, and exhaustion are constants. Humor becomes a survival tool, small observations of absurdity keeping sanity tethered. By late afternoon, fatigue presses heavily. Your mind wanders, imagining clean air, sunlight, freedom, but reality is immediate, cruel, and unavoidable. The foreman's gaze never wavers, the machines never pause, and the work must continue. Survival is both a skill and an art. You adapt, internalizing rhythms, predicting motion, finding the smallest efficiencies that will keep you alive another hour. Evening descends slowly. The machines finally begin their reluctant exhale, noise and steam abating just enough for consciousness to reassert itself. You step outside, lungs gasping for breathable air, clothes caked in grime, body aching. The streets are quieter, but the fog remains, heavy with coal and soot. You walk home, senses exhausted, spirit frayed yet resilient. Night arrives, offering the briefest of reprieves. Sleep is uneasy, filled with dreams haunted by the machinery and the relentless roar of industry. Yet even in sleep, fragments of humor and humanity surface, a coworker's odd grin, the absurdity of yesterday's near misses, the resilience of shared survival. These small victories sustain you, carrying you forward into the next cycle. Victorian life continues in this relentless rhythm: labor, endurance, danger, shared suffering, absurd humor, and fleeting triumphs. Each day repeats, each day demands focus, resilience, and adaptation. The machines roar, the foreman judges, the air remains thick, yet survival is both possible and transformative. You learn to move with precision, to observe every detail, to exist in the rhythm of industrial life, and to find small moments of levity in a harsh world. You wake again before sunrise, muscles screaming in a way that suggests they remember every misstep from yesterday. Your straw mattress is now both enemy and confidant, holding your body in stiff protest. The air is cold, damp, and sharp, smelling faintly of soot from yesterday's industrial fog. You breathe in slowly, reluctantly, and realize the day ahead will demand more than your body thought possible, more than your mind believes it can endure. The streets outside are alive again, fog swirling, coal dust hanging like a stubborn curse in the pale light. Children scurry past, faces serious, clutching tools as though survival itself had handed them a syllabus. Rats slink across the cobblestones, fat, judgmental, and oddly patient. One pauses to look at you, eyes glinting with what feels like pity, or perhaps disdain, and you cannot tell which. You do not have time to dwell, the factory bell will not wait for contemplation. The bell rings with all the subtlety of a cannon. Your pulse quickens as your body begins its well-rehearsed dance of preparation, gathering your strength, summoning your courage. The mud underfoot squelches, shoes soaked through hours ago, now incapable of holding warmth, dignity, or any hope of traction. Every step toward the factory is a negotiation with gravity and urban decay, your feet sinking into the gray soup of yesterday's fog and coal residue. Inside the factory, the cacophony begins anew. Machines roar with personalities that could not be friendlier if you asked politely. Steam cuts across the floor like angry snakes, belts spin with a deliberate malice, pistons pump like mechanical hearts possessed by spite. The floor is slick with oil, dust, and the residue of countless human mistakes. Your first steps are strategic, your entire body tenses in anticipation of every potential hazard. The foreman appears, emerging from the mist like a specter of disappointment. His gaze measures, weighs, and assigns blame before a word leaves his mouth. You instinctively straighten, heart hammering, aware that inefficiency is not tolerated, hesitation is punished, and fear is expected. Every motion, every glance, every attempt to breathe quietly is monitored. You feel both incredibly visible and utterly powerless. Mid-morning drags on in endless repetition. Your hands ache, lungs burn, back stiffens, and yet the work must continue. Feeding raw materials into machines, adjusting gears, dodging hazards, the day becomes a rhythm of survival, each motion dictated by necessity and fear. Small victories emerge in milliseconds, a finger not caught, a sleeve not shredded, a piston anticipated before it strikes. Humor, absurd and dark, becomes your lifeline, the occasional glance at a coworker's misfortune, the ridiculous names of machines, the impossible angles of conveyor belts. By noon, the factory is a living entity of heat, steam, noise, and motion. Workers move with the practiced precision of those who have surrendered to inevitability. Each cough, each wheeze, each clank is both signal and obstacle. Lunch arrives, modest and functional, bread as dense as despair, water metallic with lingering coal flavor. Conversation is impossible, drowned by the roar of machines, yet the silent acknowledgement of shared suffering builds a tenuous camaraderie. You eat mechanically, body surviving on habit and necessity. Afternoon stretches endlessly. The air is hot, thick, and unrelenting. Sweat mixes with grime to form a sticky shell over your skin. Your lungs feel full of tiny, unidentifiable particles, each inhalation a small rebellion against biology. The machines continue their relentless symphony, indifferent to human endurance, powered by steam, ambition, and malice. Every mistake could cost more than embarrassment, it could cost a finger, a limb, or a faint hope of continuing unscathed. The foreman prowls, shadowing your every movement. His presence is both oppressive and instructive, without words, he communicates the gravity of existence in this space. You adapt, move with precision, anticipate, and survive. Humor surfaces intermittently, a coworker dodges a spitting pipe, another narrowly avoids a runaway belt, and you laugh quietly, absurdly, because laughter is easier than despair. Evening approaches, a slow dimming of the oppressive industrial light. Machines ease, steam dissipates slightly, but exhaustion has already embedded itself in your bones. You exit the factory, lungs gasping for breathable air, body coated in grime, fingers stiff, mind buzzing with sensory overload. The streets are quieter, but fog lingers, cold and judgmental. You walk home, each step a victory, each breath a small miracle of survival. Night arrives, offering the briefest reprieve. Sleep is uneasy, haunted by the roar of machinery, by the shapes of industrial nightmares, by the relentless rhythm of labor. Even in dreams, the factory persists, clanking, whirring, hissing, demanding attention. And yet, within this darkness, fragments of hope persist, small human victories, shared glances, the absurd humor that threads survival together. You realize now that Victorian life is not merely endurance, it is a dance with chaos, a negotiation with danger, a balance between fear, absurdity, and fleeting triumph. Every day repeats, yet each day builds resilience, understanding, and an appreciation for survival that transcends the immediate horror. You are learning the rhythm: move, survive, laugh, endure, repeat. You awaken again before sunrise, the bitter chill of the room pressing against your skin, reminding you that warmth is an ancient myth reserved for the wealthy. Your straw mattress has claimed more of your dignity than your back, but somehow, your body obligingly drags itself upright. Outside, fog hangs low, thick and unyielding, as if the very air resents your presence. You wrap your threadbare coat around yourself and step into the streets, each footfall squelching in mud and refuse, a soundtrack of reluctant compliance. The journey to the factory is familiar now, yet no less punishing. Children dart past, eyes wide, tools clutched like talismans against industrial fate. Rats, enormous and unconcerned, slink across the cobblestones, daring you to step incorrectly. Smoke from chimneys curls into the sky, a permanent gray crown atop a city unwilling to see the sun. Each breath is a reminder that air is not a right here, it is a privilege, reserved for those who can escape the industrial haze. The factory doors loom ahead, iron and oppressive, vibrating faintly from the inner chaos. You hesitate, heart quickening, listening to the symphony of machinery inside. Belts whirl, pistons hiss, gears grind, and somewhere a steam pipe screams in protest, as if the building itself despises its inhabitants. The foreman appears, ghost-like from the steam, and his gaze sweeps the floor like a scythe. You straighten instinctively, sensing that inefficiency, hesitation, and even fear are equally punishable offenses. Inside, the factory is alive, a predator disguised as industry. Machines roar and clank, steam swirls around like phantoms, and the floor is a mixture of oil, dust, and discarded hope. You move carefully, feeding materials into the monstrous looms and presses, each step measured, each action deliberate. A misstep could cost a finger, or more, but the work continues relentlessly, indifferent to human fragility. By mid-morning, you are sweating through grime and dust, lungs burning, ears ringing from the continuous assault of industrial noise. Machines have personalities here, indifferent, menacing, and occasionally spiteful. One particularly large press seems to hum a mocking tune whenever your sleeve brushes too close. You laugh quietly, absurdly, because humor is easier than despair. Around you, co-workers move with a rhythm honed through fear, habit, and necessity, a dance of survival performed daily, unremarkable yet miraculous. Lunch arrives as a brief interlude. Bread, dense and dry, water, metallic and cold. You eat mechanically, exchanging nods with fellow workers, the noise of the factory drowning out words. There is a shared understanding here, survival is both individual and collective. The absurdity of it, children working alongside adults, the deafening roar, the filth, becomes strangely comforting in its consistency. Afternoon stretches on endlessly, each machine a challenge, each task a test of endurance. Steam rises, mixing with dust to form a tangible haze that clings to your skin. You adapt to the environment, learning the movements, predicting the piston strikes, anticipating the belt's rotations. Every narrow escape, every minor victory, is celebrated silently. Your body becomes a finely tuned instrument of endurance, reacting before thought can intervene. The foreman prowls, as ever, a specter of judgment. His presence alone accelerates your movements, tightens your muscles, sharpens your focus. Words are scarce, the unspoken demand for perfection resonates louder than any scream. Occasionally, a coworker suffers a misstep, a belt catches, a pipe hisses dangerously, and the factory's response is swift, brutal, yet strangely efficient. You learn to move with precision, to read danger in the subtle tremor of machinery, the flicker of steam, the tense shift in a neighbor's posture. Evening descends, though light is scarce here, swallowed by smoke and industry. Your shift ends, not with relief, but with exhaustion so deep it has weight, pressing down like the very bricks of the factory walls. Walking home, lungs gasping for pure air, you are coated in soot and sweat, fingers stiff, hair tangled, mind buzzing from the sensory overload. The streets are quieter, yet the fog remains, cold, gray, and judgmental. Every step home is a small victory, a moment of reflection, a reminder that survival has meaning even when life itself seems absurd. Night offers little reprieve. Sleep is haunted by the clanging, whirring, hissing, and roaring of machines, a persistent echo that lingers even in dreams. Yet within the darkness, fragments of hope and resilience persist, the camaraderie of shared suffering, the small victories, the absurd humor that threads survival together. You understand now that Victorian life is a rhythm of endurance, absurdity, and adaptation, a continuous negotiation with chaos, danger, and fleeting triumphs. You are learning the rhythm: move, survive, laugh, endure, repeat. With each day, each shift, each narrow escape, your body and mind are recalibrated, attuned to the industrial heartbeat of this era. Pain, fear, absurdity, and camaraderie form the invisible scaffolding of survival. You are part of it, and it is part of you, indelible, relentless, and strangely instructive. You awaken again, the bitter chill pressing into every joint, every nerve, a reminder that comfort is a myth reserved for others. Your body protests each movement, every stretch and shift, a negotiation between what you want and what your spine insists is impossible. The streets outside are quiet for now, only the distant rumble of the city reminding you that life will not pause for your fragile optimism. Fog curls low, thick and unrelenting, clinging to shoes, trousers, and hope alike. The journey to the factory begins, each step a challenge. Mud squelches between toes, rats skitter in moral judgment, and the air tastes like burnt coal and despair. Children sprint past, their small frames agile, their eyes wide with the practiced alertness of those who have learned to survive before breakfast. The chimneys puff incessantly, black smoke curling like serpents through the gray morning, shading the sky in a permanent twilight. The factory looms ahead, a mountain of brick, iron, and whispered threats. Its doors are iron, unyielding, foreboding, resonating with the collective sigh of every worker who has entered and survived, or not. Inside, the chaos begins anew. The roar of machinery, the hiss of steam, the grinding of gears, all collide into a soundscape that seems physically impossible, yet undeniable. It fills your ears, your chest, your thoughts. Silence does not exist here, it has been eradicated by industrial necessity. Your workstation is a collection of mechanical horrors, belts, cogs, and pistons that seem to sense fear and react with malice. You move carefully, each hand motion calculated, each step deliberate. One slip, one hesitation, and the consequences are immediate, physical, and permanent. Around you, co-workers navigate the madness with the practiced ease of those who have made peace with pain, endurance, and absurdity. You mimic, you observe, you survive. Mid-morning arrives, though it is indistinguishable from the previous hours. Sweat pours freely, mingling with grime to form a coating that becomes part of your skin. Lungs ache with each inhale, tasting the metallic tang of steam, oil, and coal. Eyes water, throat burns, but the rhythm of work carries you forward. Every machine hums, every piston strikes, every belt spins in perfect, terrifying synchronization, a mechanical symphony designed to test humanity itself. The foreman prowls, a living embodiment of disappointment, judgment, and bureaucratic cruelty. His gaze sweeps the floor like a scythe, and every worker stiffens, moves faster, bends further to the relentless pace. Instructions are rare, communication minimal, yet the expectations are absolute. Mistakes are punished silently, often through small accidents, reprimands, or public embarrassment that leave scars deeper than any physical wound. Lunch arrives as a brief interlude, a morsel of bread, cold water, a moment to breathe and observe. Conversations are sparse, guttural, interrupted by the factory's unyielding roar. You exchange nods with co-workers, shared acknowledgement of survival, shared recognition of absurdity. Humor flickers in glances, in subtle gestures, a private rebellion against the industrial tyranny surrounding you. Afternoon stretches endlessly. Machines roar, belts whir, steam hisses, and every movement requires vigilance, precision, and courage. One slip, one miscalculated grab, one lapse in attention, and disaster waits patiently. You adapt, reacting instinctively to the machine's rhythm, your mind a blend of fear, observation, and learned reflex. The factory tests not only your body but your perception, your patience, your capacity to endure. By early evening, exhaustion has layered over every nerve. Skin coated in soot, hair tangled, lungs ragged, muscles trembling, yet you endure. The foreman's presence is constant, his judgment implicit, a reminder that failure is a luxury no one can afford. Every glance, every movement, every sound is measured, evaluated, integrated into the dance of survival. When the shift finally ends, you stagger into the foggy streets, lungs gasping, body weighted with grime and fatigue. Night falls, though the city itself seems impervious to darkness, illuminated by the glow of industry and the faint hope of human resilience. Each step home is a victory, each breath of cleaner air a fleeting reward. The streets are quieter, but the memory of the factory's roar lingers, echoing in mind and body, a reminder of endurance, absurdity, and adaptation. Night offers little relief. Sleep is haunted by clanging, hissing, and the perpetual mechanical symphony. Yet within this darkness, fragments of hope persist, camaraderie forged through shared suffering, small victories survived against impossible odds, and the absurd humor that keeps sanity tethered to reality. You are learning the rhythm: observe, adapt, endure, survive, repeat. This is not merely survival. It is a profound immersion into human persistence, into resilience forged under unrelenting pressure. You recognize the absurdity, the cruelty, the relentless monotony, and you continue. Every day, every shift, every narrow escape reinforces a truth: endurance, humor, and shared experience are as essential as air itself. Dawn arrives reluctantly, as if even the sun refuses to witness another day in this industrial theater. Your body protests, a chorus of aching joints and lungs that are still recovering from yesterday's assault. The streets are damp and cold, wrapped in fog thick enough to taste, smelling faintly of coal smoke, horse manure, and human endurance. You step into the familiar chaos. Children scurry past, their faces pale, eyes wide, and their hands clutching tools instead of toys. They are miniature veterans of survival, navigating the cobblestones like seasoned generals of misfortune. Rats scuttle around them, as fearless and judgmental as ever. You breathe shallowly, bracing your lungs, and proceed toward the factory like a soldier marching into known carnage. The factory doors rise before you like the maw of a beast, dark iron and rust exuding menace. As you enter, the heat, noise, and grime hit simultaneously, smothering and unrelenting. Steam coils through the air, mixing with coal dust and the pervasive aroma of sweat and oil. Your lungs file another complaint, now ignored by your mind entirely. The machines wait like predators, belts spinning, gears clanking, pistons hissing, all in chaotic symphony. Each movement you make is a negotiation with physics and probability. Your hands, already blistered, grip materials with a caution born of experience and fear. The noise is no longer just sound, it is a living, mocking entity, pressing into your chest, rattling your bones, vibrating your nerves. The foreman prowls the floor, a dark silhouette of authority, moving without haste but with certainty. His eyes scan every motion, every pause, every misstep. You straighten instinctively. Mistakes are observed, logged in invisible mental books, and penalized through subtlety or severity. No words are needed. His presence alone dictates speed, precision, and silent terror. Hours pass. Your body moves automatically now, muscles and joints memorizing the dangerous choreography. You feed raw materials into spinning gears, guide threads through steam-powered looms, adjust belts and pulleys with trembling accuracy. The factory is alive, not just in its movement, but in its intent. It wants efficiency, obedience, and occasionally, body parts as tribute. Lunch arrives not as a break but as a small mercy. Dense bread, thin soup, and bitter tea, fuel for survival rather than pleasure. Conversation is minimal. Shared glances offer acknowledgement, tiny sparks of humor in an otherwise brutal environment. The absurdity of endurance is noted silently, surviving is its own dark comedy. The afternoon is relentless. Noise presses deeper into your mind. Steam hisses with temper, belts lash unpredictably, and pistons strike with mechanical precision that borders on malice. You feel yourself adapting, almost symbiotic with the machinery. Mistakes have consequences. Survival is an ongoing calculation, a test of nerve, timing, and dexterity. Accidents happen. Fingers are grazed, sleeves caught, burns received. Each mishap is a lesson in the factory's cruel pedagogy. Pain becomes a metric of competence, endurance a measure of worth. You learn not to resist the rhythm of chaos, but to flow with it. The machines do not punish out of malice, they simply do not care. Survival is negotiation, compromise, and constant vigilance. By late afternoon, exhaustion weighs on you like a physical force. Muscles ache, lungs rasp, and vision blurs from both fatigue and dust. Yet you persist. Small victories, keeping a machine running, avoiding injury, a coworker's silent nod, are the markers of progress. Humor flickers in shared misery, brief and necessary, like sparks against the suffocating darkness. At last, the bell rings. Freedom arrives, metallic and final. You step out into the cold evening, lungs gasping, body coated in grime and sweat. The fog curls around your feet, rats scuttle with impunity, and the streets echo with the distant calls of other workers leaving their day of trial behind. Night falls, though the glow of factory fires and gas lamps illuminates the city, casting long shadows that mingle with memory and exhaustion. The dawn is mercifully gray, neither welcoming nor hostile, a neutral sky reflecting the state of your body and mind. You rise, joints stiff, lungs still tasting yesterday's soot and steam, and step into the streets. The fog hugs the ground like a sentient blanket, heavy with coal smoke and the faint aroma of burned bread. Your shoes, waterlogged and peeling at the edges, squelch with every step, a reminder that comfort is a concept reserved for someone else. Children rush past again, faces pale, legs thin, but eyes sharp. Their energy is a survival instinct honed into mechanical precision. Some trip over unseen stones, some stumble into puddles, but they recover and continue. There is no play here, only duty and instinct. Rats scuttle at their heels, undisturbed by screams, anger, or sudden accidents. They are tiny urban sages, ancient and indifferent, judging your every clumsy step. The factory looms ahead, a monolithic mountain of brick and iron. The chimneys cough black smoke that smells like ambition gone wrong. As you enter, the heat and noise envelop you like a sentient wall. Steam snakes through the air, hissing and twisting, carrying the scent of oil, sweat, and faint despair. Your lungs adapt, or at least, they try, but every breath is a negotiation, a brief contract with survival. Machines roar and clank with predatory rhythm. Belts spin like serpents, pistons pump like mechanical hearts, and gears grind with intent. Your hands move automatically, instinctively, guided by muscle memory and fear. Each motion is a delicate balance between competence and catastrophe. A single misstep could result in injury, or worse, the permanent reminder of the factory's indifference. The foreman prowls the floor as always. His shadow stretches long across workers bent over their stations, and his glare feels like it can crush both bone and willpower. You straighten reflexively, pretending efficiency, though inside you wonder if he even notices or simply exists as a symbol of inevitable judgment. There is no friendliness here, only observation, expectation, and the occasional shout that pierces the deafening noise like a scalpel. Hours pass. Your body moves with rhythm and terror intertwined. Raw materials feed the machines. Threads align. Levers pull. Steam hisses and belches hot droplets that scald if you dare to get too close. The noise does not relent. You do not speak, you cannot. Your mind learns new ways to interpret sound, seeing patterns in chaos, hearing signals where none exist. Survival becomes both art and science. Lunch arrives as a brief mercy, nothing more. Hard bread, thin soup, bitter tea. Your hands shake slightly as you eat. Around you, co-workers share the same silent acknowledgement of endurance, a dark camaraderie born of shared suffering. No words are needed, small glances and smirks communicate everything: fear, fatigue, and occasional absurdity. Afternoon brings new trials. Machines behave unpredictably. Steam valves hiss with rage, belts slip, and pistons stutter. You adjust, improvise, and pray silently. The foreman walks past again, his presence both a warning and a shield. If he is near, accidents are less likely to go unnoticed, and your attention is sharpened like a blade. The air grows hotter, thick with soot and oil. Each breath becomes a tactical decision. Your muscles ache, joints protest, and the rhythmic pounding of machinery against bone and floor creates a background hum that resonates deep in your chest. Yet, you persist. Small victories, keeping a belt aligned, avoiding a scalding blast of steam, become monumental triumphs. Humor flickers again, brief but vital, in shared looks, subtle gestures, or absurd accidents narrowly avoided. By late afternoon, fatigue reaches a zenith. Yet even in exhaustion, your mind observes. Patterns in machine movement, rhythms in coworker gestures, timing for safe interventions, all become mental maps of survival. You see absurdities clearly now: belts moving with mischievous intent, gears grinding in mockery, a pigeon somehow inside the factory, staring at you like it owns the place. Finally, the bell rings, metallic, liberating, final. You stagger out into the fog-laden streets. Your body is coated in grime, lungs rasping, muscles trembling. The city outside is dimly lit, shadows stretching unnaturally long, blending with memories of the day's trials. Rats scurry, children hurry, and distant chimneys continue to cough black smoke as if mocking your survival. The night promises rest, though sleep is shallow, haunted by the machines, the noise, and the memory of clanging steel. Dreams mingle with the rhythm of pistons, belts, and steam, replaying accidents narrowly avoided and minor triumphs achieved. Reflection is immediate: endurance, adaptation, humor, and connection forged in adversity. Every small victory, every successful day, is proof of resilience. The sun rises reluctantly, gray and diffident, barely nudging the rooftops awake. You emerge from your straw mattress of betrayal and bruised joints, body heavy with yesterday's soot and regret. The fog is thick, sticky with coal smoke, and carries whispers of coughs past. Your shoes squelch as you walk through the streets, each step a reminder that comfort is a myth and waterlogged footwear is reality. Children run past again, faces pale, eyes sharp, carrying tools and instinct. Their energy is honed by necessity, not playfulness. Rats scuttle through puddles like miniature philosophers, unbothered by human suffering, observing with quiet contempt. You, in contrast, shuffle along, lungs already tired, senses assaulted by the smell of baked bread, smoke, and industrial despair. The factory looms, brick and iron, a monolith of misery. Chimneys exhale black smoke, thick enough to taste, curling upward like the fingers of disapproving ghosts. Steam snakes from pipes, hissing with a malicious intelligence. Every breath is a negotiation, a gamble between survival and despair. Inside, the machines roar. Belts spin, pistons pump, and gears grind with violent rhythm. Your hands move automatically, trained by fear and repetition. Each motion is a careful calculation, too slow invites rebuke, too fast invites injury. The air is thick with oil, dust, and sweat, a substance with its own agency, determined to choke, blind, and irritate. The foreman prowls, a figure of judgment, disappointment, and unwavering authority. His shadow stretches across the workers, an invisible whip cracking with every step. He does not smile, he does not blink, he observes. You straighten, pretending competence, while every nerve in your body screams negotiation, retreat, or prayer. Hours pass, and your body becomes a machine mimicking a machine, synced with rhythm, noise, and fear. Every piston, belt, and crank demands attention. Steam bursts unpredictably. Gears slip. Hot oil drips. Survival is instinct, a mental and physical ballet choreographed by danger. Your lungs burn, eyes water, ears vibrate from the deafening industrial chorus. Coughing becomes strategy. Breath is rationed. Humor flickers in dark corners, a colleague narrowly avoiding disaster, an absurd pigeon perched inside, watching, judging. Each small survival is celebrated internally, quietly, with grim satisfaction. Lunch is a brief reprieve, stale bread, thin broth, bitter tea. You eat mechanically, muscles trembling, lungs wheezing. Around you, co-workers share glances of shared endurance, understanding without words. Each glance conveys fear, fatigue, absurdity, and the faint spark of humanity surviving in a world designed for suffering. Afternoon brings renewed trials. Machines behave unpredictably, belts snapping, steam hissing, pistons jerking. Your hands move faster than thought. Survival becomes instinct, observation, adaptation, and humor combined. You notice patterns, how belts move, how steam hisses, how the foreman's shadow predicts judgment. Absurdity is constant, a machine seems to wink, a pipe hisses mockingly, and a pigeon reappears, seemingly cheering your endurance. By late afternoon, exhaustion peaks. Muscles ache, joints scream, lungs burn. Yet, focus sharpens. Each successful motion is triumph. Small victories, avoiding injury, keeping a belt aligned, surviving the foreman's glare, become monumental. Humor and observation are survival tools, mental lifelines in a world designed to punish distraction. Finally, the bell rings, metallic and merciless. Liberation is immediate but tempered by anticipation of tomorrow. You stagger into the fog-laden streets, body coated in grime, lungs rasping, muscles trembling. Rats scurry, chimneys cough, children rush, and the city continues indifferent. Night promises rest, shallow and haunted by clanging steel, hissing steam, and absurd visions of yesterday's near disasters. As sleep comes, dreams are an echo of factory rhythm, pistons pumping, belts spinning, steam hissing. You awaken momentarily in dreams, calculating safe paths around machines, noting absurdities, and rehearsing survival. Endurance is physical, mental, and existential. Humor punctuates suffering. Observation becomes a weapon. Survival is both art and strategy. Dawn arrives reluctantly, gray and apologetic, as though even the sun knows the horrors it's about to witness. You stir from your straw mattress of misery, joints stiff, lungs still tasting yesterday's soot, and muscles vibrating with phantom tremors from machinery that no longer even exists in your dreams. You're haunted. Your shoes squelch through mud and coal sludge as you move toward the factory. Each step is an exercise in patience, endurance, and bitter nostalgia for the concept of clean socks. The streets are alive with motion, but it is the motion of survival, not leisure. Children dart past, clutching tools like miniature weapons, faces pale and eyes sharp, already experts at navigating danger disguised as industry. Rats observe quietly from the corners, unaffected, perhaps amused, certainly judging. You glance at them, and they wink. Or maybe that's just exhaustion playing tricks. The factory rises in the fog like a monolith of despair, brick and iron, smog curling from chimneys in serpentine triumph. Inside, the smell of metal, oil, and coal greets you like an old friend who actively hates you. Steam hisses from every pipe, punctuating the symphony of grinding gears, spinning belts, and pistons pumping with a rhythm that feels both chaotic and sentient. Every machine seems to possess its own personality, cruel, indifferent, slightly mocking. The foreman appears, silhouette framed in steam, gaze piercing. His walk is deliberate. Every step sends shivers through the assembly line of human bodies and mechanical contraptions alike. No one smiles. No one blinks unnecessarily. Efficiency is measured by survival, not speed, not pride, not comprehension. You nod politely, as if that is sufficient to mollify a being born of disappointment and leather boots. Your workstation waits, a monstrous machine capable of turning flesh, mind, and hope into refined labor. You approach, heart hammering. Steam escapes unpredictably. Gears spin dangerously. Belts snap with quiet menace. Hands tremble. Sweat mixes with grime, creating a black sheen on your skin, a mark of initiation, endurance, and bitter human resilience. Hours stretch endlessly. Your movements become second nature, fear and survival instincts fused into mechanical precision. Machines roar, hiss, clank, and thrum around you. Steam bites your lungs. Oil drips unpredictably. Sweat stings your eyes. Pain is constant, yet manageable, like a companion you never invited but cannot dismiss. You notice absurdities, pigeons nesting in beams, a foreman muttering to himself, belts snapping in time with a ghostly rhythm. Humor flickers, a fragile lifeline. Lunch arrives, stale bread, watery broth, and bitter tea. You eat mechanically, muscles trembling, lungs wheezing. Around you, co-workers share silent glances of mutual understanding. We endure together, we survive together, and perhaps, we are insane together. Afternoon brings renewed trials. A piston jerks unexpectedly, sending a colleague stumbling, narrowly avoiding catastrophe. Steam hisses like an angry serpent. Belts threaten sleeves, fingers, dignity. Every motion demands vigilance, every breath a negotiation. You move with the rhythm of the machines, anticipating danger, respecting absurdity, surviving chaos. By late afternoon, exhaustion peaks. Eyes water, ears ring, lungs rasp. Every muscle aches, every joint complains. Yet focus sharpens. Triumphs, small and absurd, punctuate suffering, a machine kept aligned, a belt avoided, a foreman glance survived without punishment. These victories matter immensely in a world designed to strip dignity and patience. The bell finally rings, metallic, merciless, exultant. Liberation is immediate. You stagger into fog-laden streets, lungs gasping, muscles trembling, body coated in grime, lungs filled with coal-laden air, heart still pounding from survival. Rats scuttle in indifferent triumph. Children race past, energy unbroken, resilience absurdly perfected. As night falls, your body rests, tense but alive. Mind hums with memories, the absurdity of machines, the foreman's omnipresent judgment, co-workers' grim humor, the suffocating smell of industry, and the strange camaraderie forged in constant peril. Humor punctuates suffering. Observation preserves sanity. Endurance becomes identity. Now, imagine yourself stepping out of the factory and into the dim light of the evening. The sky is gray but calm, a brief reprieve from the smoke and clang of the day. Your body is heavy with fatigue, every muscle aware of hours of labor. Your lungs ache slightly, still carrying the memory of soot and steam, but your heart beats steadily, a quiet testimony to endurance. Hear the distant sounds of the city, faint footsteps, the clatter of carts on cobblestones, a dog barking, the muted laughter of children playing safely away from machines. These sounds are softer than the roar of the factory, gentle reminders of life beyond labor, life that continues even as machines dominate hours and days. Feel the cool air on your skin. It brushes against your sweat-coated, grime-laden body, carrying with it scents of damp earth, distant cooking fires, and the faint tang of industry fading into evening. Inhale deeply. Each breath is a bridge from chaos to calm, a reminder that your body is alive, resilient, and capable of recovery. Notice your hands. Fingers that survived cogs and belts, palms that gripped tools and raw materials, hands that now rest in quiet relief. Each scar, callus, and mark tells a story of effort, survival, and persistence. They are proof not only of labor but of endurance, adaptability, and human resilience. Think of the people you worked beside. Their faces, weary but persistent. Their shared glances, small gestures of humor and solidarity amidst chaos. Even in a world of relentless machinery and rigid authority, connection exists. Shared struggle binds you together, even without words. Reflect on the rhythm of the day, relentless noise, punctuated by brief moments of calm, structured by bell and command. Notice how your body adapted to it, how your mind navigated constant sensory overload, how your humor survived where hope seemed scarce. This rhythm was both a trial and a teacher, showing endurance, timing, awareness, and the strange joy found in overcoming absurd difficulty. Consider the lessons hidden in discomfort. Fear sharpens attention. Exhaustion deepens appreciation. Adversity teaches ingenuity. Humor is survival. Observation is protection. Presence is necessity. In the Victorian factory, each challenge had a lesson, each moment of absurdity carried insight. Bring your awareness back to the present. You are safe. You are outside the factory, free from immediate danger, surrounded by calm city sounds, soft air, and evening light. The machines are silent for now. Your body rests. Your mind rests. You are allowed this stillness. Let your mind travel gently across the day's events. Imagine the factory in miniature, the belts, gears, steam, foremen, and workers. Now shrink the anxiety, the noise, the danger. Observe it as a distant, surreal memory. Let it transform into understanding, insight, and quiet respect for human endurance. Notice your breath. Steady, calm, recovering from the chaos. Let each inhale bring clarity. Let each exhale release tension, fear, and lingering stress. You are not the factory. You are beyond its noise and smoke. You are present, grounded, alive. Finally, carry the lessons forward, endurance without surrender. Humor amidst absurdity. Connection amidst hardship. Presence amidst chaos. Observation amidst relentless stimuli. Every challenge survived is a mark of resilience. Every absurdity endured is a reminder of adaptability. Every moment of labor is a testament to human persistence. The next morning arrives with the same reluctant indifference as the sun. You wake stiff, lungs still tingling from yesterday's smoke, muscles still aching in places you forgot existed. The streets are slick with yesterday's rain, the fog pressing down like a damp blanket over cobblestones and rooftops. Your shoes are waterlogged relics, still clinging to yesterday's grime. You step forward anyway, because the bell waits for no one. The city is alive in its own cruel rhythm. Children scurry past, tools in hand, faces pale but eyes sharp with a kind of survival intelligence no modern classroom could teach. Horses trudge through mud and muck, their harnesses squeaking, hooves slapping in time with the rhythm of human suffering. Rats dart in calculated paths, dodging feet and grimy debris with an air of superiority. You breathe shallowly, bracing your lungs, knowing they will complain again once you reach the factory. The factory looms ahead, its brick facade heavy and dark. Smoke pours from chimneys like liquid despair. You cross the threshold and are immediately engulfed in heat, noise, and perpetual chaos. Steam hisses from pipes, belts spin with violent purpose, and pistons strike in relentless rhythm. The air is thick, heavy, filled with coal dust, lint, oil, and something you choose not to identify. Each breath feels like chewing gravel, Your lungs file another complaint, now ignored by your willpower. Machines wait like predators. Looms twist, gears spin, presses thump in synchronized aggression. Every movement must be precise, or pain will be immediate. Your hands, blistered and calloused, grip materials tightly. Muscles remember the choreography of survival, your mind adapting to the constant roar of machinery. Mistakes are observed, consequences immediate, and humor is a secret currency you trade silently with your fellow workers. The foreman prowls like a shadow of authority, silent yet terrifying. His eyes track every motion, his posture radiates judgment, and his voice, when it comes, cuts through the cacophony like a blade. Workers straighten instinctively, moving faster, reacting to his presence even before he speaks. Authority is absolute, unquestioned, and oppressive. Hours stretch endlessly. Your body moves automatically, a blend of fear, experience, and sheer necessity. You feed materials into spinning gears, adjust belts, and guide threads through steam-powered looms. The factory is alive, sentient only in its cruelty. You notice the patterns, the rhythms, the little tricks of survival, the subtle timing to avoid collisions, the small gestures of co-workers that communicate warnings, the micro-pauses that prevent injury. Adaptation becomes instinct. Accidents happen. Fingers graze cogs, sleeves catch belts, burns appear from overheated machines. Each incident is both lesson and warning. Pain sharpens awareness, endurance becomes strategy. You survive by reading the machinery, anticipating its movements, negotiating with physics, and observing your fellow workers like a hunter tracking prey. By midday, your body demands sustenance. Lunch is a brief, utilitarian pause, dense bread, thin soup, bitter tea. Conversation is minimal, but shared glances, muffled laughter, and small gestures provide relief. Humor exists not to entertain, but to preserve sanity. Absurdity is survival. Afternoon arrives, heavier than morning. The heat intensifies, the steam thickens, the noise grows oppressive. Every machine seems angrier, every belt faster, every piston more malicious. You are now fully immersed, synchronized with the relentless industrial rhythm. Mistakes are punished, but even in punishment there is learning, adaptation, and survival. Time blurs. Hours stretch into a continuous, overwhelming experience. Sweat mixes with soot and grime, coating skin and clothing. Lungs burn, muscles protest, but movement continues. Observation, patience, and humor carry you forward. You begin to notice patterns, the predictable clank of a loom, the timing of a piston, the rhythm of coworkers navigating danger. Survival becomes choreography, endurance becomes art. As evening approaches, the final bell releases you into the fading light. You step outside, lungs heaving, body covered in grime, mind buzzing from noise and exertion. The streets are quiet compared to the factory, but alive with distant sounds, children, carts, dogs, human voices. You breathe deeply, letting the cool air cleanse your lungs, letting your body stretch and recover. The next morning arrives with the same relentless insistence as yesterday. The bell rings, shrill and accusing, dragging you from a sleep that is heavy with soreness and regret. Your body protests as you rise, joints stiff, lungs still irritated from coal smoke, and your shoes squelch with the memory of yesterday's puddles. The streets are slick, the fog pressing down like damp velvet over brick and cobblestone, carrying the familiar sense of soot, sweat, and yesterday's stew. Children dart past you, their small hands gripping tools far too big for them, faces pale but eyes sharp with grim determination. Horses trudge through mud, hooves slapping, harnesses squeaking, steam rising from their warm breaths into the cold air. Rats of considerable size scurry across the streets, unafraid, even disdainful. You inhale shallowly, already knowing the factory will demand more from your lungs than your body feels ready to give. Crossing the factory threshold, you are engulfed once again in heat, steam, noise, and relentless chaos. The machines roar with life, or something resembling life, a sentient menace powered by coal and mechanical spite. Looms twist, gears grind, presses thump in unison, and the air itself seems to fight against you. Dust, lint, oil, and a chemical soup mingle in clouds that feel almost tactile, coating your lungs, eyes, and skin. The foreman prowls, eyes piercing, posture rigid, presence alone sending workers into silent panic. You move with instinct honed yesterday, every motion calculated to avoid injury, every glance a silent warning. The machines are unyielding, they spin, hiss, clank, and snap at even the smallest misstep. Your hands, blistered and trembling, navigate threads, gears, and raw materials as though survival itself depends on your precision, because it does. Accidents occur, small and large. Fingers graze gears, sleeves catch belts, burns bloom across exposed skin. Pain is instantaneous, but it sharpens awareness. You adapt, learning the subtle signals of the machines, the timing of a piston, the rhythm of a loom, the microsecond when a belt is most dangerous. You observe co-workers with hawk-like precision, reading gestures, predicting movements, and silently exchanging warnings through nods and grimaces. Lunch offers a fleeting pause, bread, watery soup, a chance to swallow and breathe. Conversation is minimal, but humor glimmers in shared glances and quiet smirks. The absurdity of survival creates its own camaraderie, laughter becomes a scarce but precious currency, a shield against the overwhelming machinery. Afternoon stretches on. Heat intensifies. Steam thickens. Noise becomes oppressive, saturating every corner of your consciousness. Every machine seems angrier, every belt faster, every piston more malicious. Your body moves automatically, synced with the rhythm of production. Each step, each motion, each breath is survival. Mistakes are punished, lessons are learned instantly. Hours blur. The factory becomes a living organism of chaos and metal, its rhythm dictating yours. Sweat and grime mix into a paste on your skin, lungs burn with every inhale, muscles ache in protest, yet you endure. Patterns emerge, the predictable clank of machinery, the subtle cues of co-workers, the cadence of danger and safety. Endurance becomes art. Adaptation becomes instinct. Evening brings a temporary release. The bell rings, piercing, finally signaling respite. You step into the cold evening air, lungs expanding gratefully, skin sticky with grime, mind buzzing with the day's sensory assault. Streets are quieter now, but alive, carts rumble, distant voices echo, dogs bark. You inhale deeply, letting the air wash your lungs, letting your body stretch and recover. Night descends, quiet but uneasy. Sleep comes in shallow waves, haunted by the memory of machinery, steam, and the foreman's glare. But within this exhaustion, reflection blooms. You contemplate survival, absurdity, human endurance, and camaraderie. Every task completed, every near miss, every shared glance is a testament to resilience. Your body aches, your lungs protest, your mind hums, yet there is a strange beauty in the rhythm, the predictability of chaos, the shared struggle, the fleeting moments of humor, the silent victories over machines that could consume you whole. You sleep, anticipating tomorrow's bell, knowing the cycle will repeat, yet feeling the faint thrill of surviving it again. The next morning arrives, and it is neither forgiving nor gentle. The bell shatters the fragile silence of your sleep, each ring a reminder that rest is temporary, and survival is obligatory. Your body groans as you rise, soar in ways that words cannot fully describe. Every joint protests, every muscle whispers that yesterday's labor was just a prelude to today's ordeal. You dress in stiff, scratchy garments, their fibers digging into your skin like tiny, unrepentant instructors. Stepping outside, the streets are slick, gray, and oppressive. Fog clings to the bricks, carrying with it the familiar scents, soot, damp straw, coal, and the faint undertone of last night's stew left to ferment in the alleyways. Children scurry past, some clutching tools, others dragging miniature carts, all moving with a determined grimness that belies their youth. Rats, audacious and enormous, cross your path without hesitation. The city itself seems alive, indifferent to your suffering, yet fully aware of your place within its machinery. Crossing the bridge to the factory, the river below bubbles like a cauldron of forgotten industrial sins. Its surface glimmers with oil slicks, a liquid mirror reflecting the sky's grey disdain. You wonder briefly if falling in might be the easiest path to escape, then remind yourself that even that is a gamble with absurd odds. Inside the factory, chaos reigns supreme. The machines roar, hiss, thump, grind, and we're in a mechanical symphony designed to test every nerve. Gears twist and snap with purpose, pistons pound like angry hearts, belts spin with lethal intent. The air is dense, tactile even, a mixture of lint, cold dust, steam, and the collective despair of hundreds of human bodies. Your lungs ache immediately, your eyes water, but you have no choice, adapt or perish. Your mentor, the older man missing fingers you barely dare count, nods in acknowledgement. A few words of warning are thrown, mind the gears, but mostly, survival is learned through observation, instinct, and a healthy measure of fear. Every motion is deliberate, feed the raw materials, adjust the belt, avoid the spinning cog. A single lapse could cost you more than pain, it could cost you time, energy, even a part of your body. Time becomes fluid. The morning stretches, punctuated by the deafening roar of machines and the foreman's omnipresent glare. Sweat mixes with grime, skin feels like it is coated in a permanent industrial paste, lungs heave with every inhale, every exhale a negotiation with physics and fate. Noise saturates the air to the point it penetrates your bones, your thoughts, your dreams. The machines are alive with menace, yet your body slowly learns their rhythm. You start moving in tandem with them, a reluctant dance dictated by survival instinct. By midday, lunch arrives, a brief reprieve, a slice of bread, perhaps watery soup, and a moment to inhale without coughing violently. Co-workers share small jokes, whispers of absurdity, brief camaraderie that flares and dies in minutes. You laugh quietly, understanding the value of humor as currency in a place where nothing else can be counted or measured safely. The afternoon continues in relentless succession, gears, belts, steam, fire, and human persistence colliding in a sensory overload. Machines seem almost sentient, aware of fear, responding to it. A sleeve catches a belt, a hand grazes a cog. You flinch, adapt, survive. Patterns emerge, when the nibbler feeds, when the loom hesitates, when the piston pulses, timing becomes life or dismemberment. The foreman passes again, every step radiating judgment. His eyes pierce your soul, his presence demands perfection without pause. Workers stiffen instinctively, movements sharpen to the point of automatic survival. You breathe shallowly, move carefully, counting seconds and inches in a battle of attention versus fatigue. Hours drag, and the sensory onslaught intensifies. Heat and steam create a suffocating haze. Machines pound with unrelenting rhythm. The air is sticky, thick, alive. Every inhale is deliberate. Every exhale measured. Your body adapts, your mind strains, but humor persists, tiny sparks of rebellion against an overwhelming system. Evening arrives like a faint miracle. The bell rings, shrill, liberating yet accusatory. You stagger outside, lungs expanding gratefully into the cooler, quieter air. Streets glimmer with rain, fog lifts slightly, and distant city sounds remind you that life continues beyond machinery. You inhale deeply, tasting freedom in every breath, letting your muscles stretch, your heart slow, your mind breathe. Nightfall is your sanctuary. Sleep is shallow but restorative. Images of machinery haunt you, but your body recovers. Your mind replays the day's absurdities, missing fingers, angry belts, steam hissing like 1,000 tiny dragons. You laugh quietly to yourself, the small comfort of recognizing survival and absurdity as companions. You are exhausted. You are battered. You are alive. And that, in the relentless world of Victorian industry, is an achievement.